monster.
From outer space.
Eddie just wants to massacre him.
Go on out there and kill them.
Wipe them out. All of them. To the very last man.
Violence. Brutality.
Trick-or-treaters are all dead. Isn't it beautiful? Take a walk in the cemetery. Get eaten up by cannibals.
Celebrate Halloween. Love and kisses, Penny baby.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Hey, Ballbusters, Bates here with your friend and mine, Ray Mungus, and we are ready to see this Endgame through on episode 59 of Way of Life Live. How you feeling over there, man?
I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of words, to be honest. How are you?
Yeah, feeling drained. Drained. This movie was a lot to take in. So we're gonna make this review reaction pretty short, pretty sweet, pretty simple. Again, this is a spoiler-free review, so you can listen without fear of us giving anything away. But there was a lot to take in with this one.
Yeah, I agree completely. Simply put, the movie is overwhelming in the best way possible. I mean, that's a good way to start it.
Yeah. One thing Endgame does very, very well is it balances everything. It's funny because Infinity War was all about balance, and it's funny how it kind of wraps around back into this movie. But before we get into all that, guys, definitely check out last night's episode. We covered some cool things, some cool topics. You definitely want to check that out. We talked we talked a little bit about our hype for this movie, but we also obviously got back into the swing of things and covered some horror topics, some horror trailers that we missed over the last few weeks since we've been off. But definitely check out last night's episode, and remember that next Friday is our next live commentary where we will be watching the 1973 Swedish classic, if you can really call it that, thriller, A Cruel Picture. Definitely want to check that out. Remember, guys, if you want to watch the movie live with us, just contact me on Twitter, and I'll give you all that information. So, Endgame. The movie throws a lot at you. From the second it starts, throws everything at you. But this movie managed to find a very wonderful balance between areas of the movie where you want to cry and lots of really good humor that never felt forced, and that's the best kind of humor. that forced humor always feels so awkward. There was one or two scenes where it sort of spun a little out of control, but thankfully it didn't last too long.
Yeah, man. The humor I really enjoyed for the most part. I mean, I can't really complain too much because there was so much weight that was left behind in Infinity War that you kind of needed to have those moments of levity. And the way everything balances out into this movie, and like given the circumstances, it's just it's a bit of a relief, but you still have a lot of the stuff hanging over you. Um, One other thing that I kind of really dug about this movie is, like I said, there was a lot of weight from the first one, kind of left. I guess left in its own path. But the thing that I enjoyed the best is the fact that this film carried that stuff over, but it didn't feel like a direct continuation. It did like I now understand why they didn't call it Infinity War Part 2, because this movie is an entirely different beast. And
It's an entity in itself.
exactly, it definitely has legs of its own. And I've really enjoyed that. It is not what I expected at all.
Yeah, it really runs you through the emotional gambit here, and all the characters even feel different.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
maybe aside from Rocket, Rocket didn't feel that different. That's good. I don't want Rocket to change. um, but every pretty much every character felt like a completely different version of their previous selves, which makes sense after everything they've been through. Um, the movie did a really good job of highlighting some great characters and gave certain characters a lot of great screen time, a lot of powerful screen time. Um, and I think fans of those particular characters are really going to enjoy them in this movie, maybe more so than some of their previous movies.
Yeah, no
Uh,
doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I'm sorry, like for the moments of silence here, because I'm still like reeling from the movie. I'm kind of still trying to grasp everything that I just took in, and it's really, I don't know. It's like I said earlier, it's very overwhelming. But as far as characters go, I love this natural evolution that they kind of change with the times. Uh, that was pretty much left in the wake of all this tragedy that ended with Infinity War, with what happened in that film, and the characters grew in very unique ways and kind of all had their moments. They all had a great moment to kind of like showcase who they are and what they've learned in their journey, and what they've become, or what they once were and what they're becoming now. Um, not all of it's good in terms of character evolution, and that's more based on the story. Like these characters are still imperfect, and I think that's one of the best things about this movie. And the characters, they all have their own flaws, they all have their own like quirks, and they're heroes, they're gods, they're not mortals, but at the same time they are just like you and I. And I think that was a strong decision to make when writing these characters.
yeah, it's hard to explain it without giving anything away. It's just these characters won't feel like the characters you've seen in previous movies. Um,
But that's not
now,
a scary thing, though. That's a really great thing, because at the same
evolution in a
time,
way.
it exactly complete evolution, but it's also a breath of fresh air. You don't feel like these are the same characters from Infinity War.
Now, as far as how the movie progresses, now this is a very long movie. It doesn't feel as long as it really is, though. So keep that in mind. Now, there is a really clear, there is a beginning, there is a middle, and there is definitely an end to this movie. Um, and it progresses very nicely. There's no slow parts. There's build up, and it's 100% necessary, especially in the beginning of the film. Nothing ever seems like it never seems like there's too much going on for the most part. I will say probably the one thing that bothered me, and I can't really get into it because of spoilers, but there is one aspect of the movie that just seemed a little like a little rushed and a little confusing and sort of convoluted. And they try to explain it, but it's just really awkward and a little hard to follow. It doesn't take away too much because again, you're watching a comic book movie. You're all sense is out the window at this point. Um, but for hardcore fans, I think it might bother them a little bit, like it bothered me. It didn't take me out of the film, not in the least. That's pretty impossible.
I don't know what you're specifically talking about, but I will say that I don't like using the excuse of like saying it's a comic book movie. Suspension of disbelief goes out the window simply because this is a very smartly written film. It may be a little bit convoluted at times because they're trying to accomplish a lot in a 3 hour period, and not to mention they're trying to conclude what was basically the culmination of 10 years worth of filmmaking in 23 films, I believe. So, I mean, sure, things might get a little bit hairy, but it's definitely not. I wouldn't say, oh, well, it's a comic book movie, it's a popcorn movie, just get over it, because, it's a balancing act that could teeter one way or the other. And, with what they're trying to accomplish and how much they're trying to fit in, I think it's, regardless of which scene you're talking about, I really think that they pulled off one hell of a job as far as getting everything accomplished and getting all the loose ends tied up and pretty much ending a fucking massive epic saga. It's just crazy what they were able to do in this film.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to take anything away from it, and again, it didn't take me out of it. It was just, I even the movies I love to death, I have areas in them, and there's scenes in them. There's certain things about them that I get nitpicky about, and it was just one particular. It wasn't like a scene per se. It was just an explanation of a particular path that they were going down. It was just
Right, right.
just
I guess
I was nitpicky. It's the best way to
I guess
explain it.
my response is more aimed at the people that will eventually try to pick this movie apart and try to find the flaws. I guess what you were saying kind of like triggered that up, and I'm like, you know what? Let me address the haters real quick in the future.
Oh yeah. So let's just dive into that topic just for a minute or so. There is a scene in this movie. We were talking about it on the car ride home. There is a scene in this movie, and it is going to piss off a lot of people.
But the
And
good thing about that is these people are like, mouth breathers that really don't deserve the attention that we're even giving them now. So, yay, let it be pissed off.
pretty much all those people that were hating on Captain Marvel, that movie, they're gonna hate this particular scene, and you're gonna hear about it in the next couple of days, and just lick their salty tears. They're gonna taste amazing, I promise you. It's a great scene. So don't let them deter you because they're gonna talk shit about this particular scene. And when you guys finally go see the movie, you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about.
You know what sucks though? I mean, with how much whining they're going to be doing, they might actually take this movie down. Might not do very well because
I know
all their campaigns have worked so well so far. I mean, look at what it did to Captain Marvel. I mean, Jesus
I know.
Christ, bomb.
Yeah. I know it hurt it real bad.
Oh wait, it didn't.
So overall, the best way to explain, to react to this movie, explain this movie, if I had to, in just one simple word. It's satisfying. It's satisfying to see all these characters unite together. It's satisfying to see how 11 years of world building finally comes to a head. It's satisfying to see so many amazing moments, finally realized on screen. 'Cause there are moments in this movie, beautiful, great, true comic book moments that fans probably have been waiting to see for a while. And there's a couple of them in this movie, and you're gonna have a Joker-sized grin on your face when a couple of them happen. It was sort of hard to contain myself. There was one particular scene, and I knew it was coming because of something that happened earlier in the movie, and I was just waiting for it. I was just on the edge of my seat waiting for it because I knew it was coming, and then it finally did come, and yeah, I had a big stupid grin on my face, but it's pure enjoyment. There's no other way to really explain it. It was satisfying. It was like, I don't know, like a good meal when you're just starving and it just hits the spot, or an ice cold beer on a hot day. It's just so pure, so simple, but yet the most amazing feeling you could have, especially as a comic book fan.
I pretty much echo that. And a lot of these scenes that were in this movie, a lot of people might call it fan service, but I really don't agree with that. I actually just retweeted something from slash film writer David Chen earlier today, and it's simply, I think the best way to put it is the world building and everything that they've worked so hard toward, kind of setting into place over the last 10, 11 years is, it just all builds up to that final moment. This is a conclusion. It's meant to have everything pay off. And I don't like the idea that it might be considered fan service, because in terms of what they were able to pull off, given the amount of work they did within the last 10 years. I mean, it just, I don't think I've seen a movie that was this epic. I mean, I'm sure there's people that could sit there and point out films, like, I know there's big Harry Potter fans, I know there's big Lord of the Rings fans, but like, I don't have any recollection of seeing a film of this magnitude and this massive scope. And I think it's a rarity. Like, we're not going to see anything quite like this again, even in the next phase of what they plan on the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. I really don't see it being as
Impactful.
yeah, like, I hope it is. I hope they're able to top it, or at least come close to it. But Jesus Christ, man, this is just filmmaking at its finest. And it really bugs me that there's a small vocal sect of people that are like, oh, boycott these movies, they're ruining cinema and the art of film. But I think they're evolving it. You know what I mean? I mean, like, to sit there and watch what they were able to do in these years, and see it come to a satisfying conclusion based off of comic books. Like, just that alone is a massive achievement.
Yeah, not everything has to be a fucking Citizen Kane and The Godfather, Like, these are what movies are for. They're meant to entertain you. They're meant to make you think and have debates and have conversations and all the stuff that, these Marvel movies do. That's exactly what a movie is supposed to do. And so what if it's based off a comic book? Comic book is still art. It's still a medium. It's still a viable medium. It's still a viable medium that's been around for, 80, 90 years now? I mean, a Oscar-winning movie like The Godfather, well, that was based off a book. Yeah, maybe there weren't drawn pictures in it, but it was still a book. It was still a medium. It was still another form of art. So, those people, they just need to kind of look at it from a different aspect and realize, well, okay, so maybe they're not for me, but I kind of see what people can get out of them. Now, one of the great things about this movie is we happen to be in a theater with a pretty good audience. They were laughing, they were cheering, they were clapping, they were gasping. They were. You could feel everyone in our particular audience they were hitting all the emotions that we were, and that kind of enhances a movie like this, and lets you know that you're not alone.
Yeah, you're escaping right there with 100 other people. They believe the world that they're witnessing, just as you are sitting in your seat. Like that, I think that's the real secret about great cinema is when you could watch a giant like battle happen on the screen, and like believe that like yeah this happened somewhere, you know what I mean, like when you're so caught up in a film and what the crazy unreal aspects of it are not even given a second thought, like oh well that's obviously fake, obviously there's no spaceships or whatnot. When you could lose yourself in a film, that's a sign of filmmakers doing their job. And when you could lose yourself in a film with a massive audience, experiencing the same thing simultaneously, well done, well done to the filmmakers.
Yeah, it's this was a an achievement on many levels of filmmaking, storytelling, everything. It will be a hard movie to top. It will be a hard cinematic event overall to top. um, and as longtime fans of the comic books of these characters, it was super fitting. Um, there are some sadder moments in this movie, but they feel appropriate. It's like you don't feel like anything was ripped away from you. It it hits all the right notes, and some of them are pretty unexpected. But again, the way I started this review, the way I'm gonna pretty much end it is they balanced everything perfectly. Uh, and that was a beat that Thanos was taught was that was his whole goal, was balance, and the end of it, it was achieved. They balanced every aspect of this movie, and I don't know if another movie will ever come close to doing that.
I completely agree with everything you said there. um I guess one of the big points for me, I guess, where I'm like really feeling it is the fact that it is the shit that we used to dream about while sitting there laying on your stomach or on a bed or something reading these comic books, seeing the imagery in these books growing up and traveling to far off worlds and watching epic battles. It is everything that your young mind kind of pictured would happen. And like back in the day, we're a bunch of old farts at this point, but back in the day, we'd never imagined that we'd ever get a movie like this, let alone to the scale of what this film is and what it accomplished. And here we are, an hour after seeing it, hour and a half after seeing it, talking about it, having witnessed it, having seen it for the reality that it is. And I know it's just a comic book movie, and I know I'm being hypocritical from what I was talking about earlier, but at the same time, they fucking brought my childhood to life, on the big screen. And if that's not a massive achievement alone, I don't know what is. And the rest at this point is all bonus for me. The movie being what it is just gratuitous, and not the film being gratuitous, but it's gratuitous to me. The I was able to get a little taste of my childhood and an amazing movie on top of it. So, you can't go wrong with this one.
No, again, long movie, but it doesn't feel it. When you come out of it, you realize, you just sat through a 3-hour movie, and you're sitting there and you're trying to remember. It's like, wow, where did all that time go? But then you go back and you realize, well, they were giving all these characters a lot of their own little screen time and a lot of their own little, uh, spots or time in the spotlight, and then you kind of get it. This this movie is one for the ages, man. Whether you're a fan of these movies or not, a fan of these characters or not, we may never get anything on this caliber again in our lifetimes, and I'm okay with that. Um, this, as I said before, this was an achievement on many, many different levels, and I'm going to try to get into more of that on my written review, which is, I feel like it's going to be hard for me to get a lot of this down on paper, but I'm going to try tomorrow.
Good luck, my friend. I
uh,
didn't even expect us to get as much talked about on this episode as we have already, because one thing that I came out of the theater saying was, like, I'm speechless. I don't even know how we're going to be able to accomplish a spoiler free review on this movie with everything that transpired in the 3 hour block.
yeah, I know.
Baffling.
I'm having trouble like just kind of gathering my thoughts and trying to, get them out of my mouth. But it's it feels appropriate, man. From going to the theater on opening day to see Iron Man back in like 2008 to where we are now in 2019 with Avengers Endgame, 22, 23 films later. It's like I was there for the beginning and I'm here for the end. And it was a ride and a half, a decade plus long ride. And fuck, after a little break, because I definitely do need a break from the whole MCU right now. I'm not burnt out. It's just more of an emotional break, really.
I hear that, man. I mean, I'm excited to see the thing again. I'm looking forward to Spider-Man, but I just need to really let this one sink in a bit.
Yeah, I think I'm really gonna, I'm gonna write this review, hopefully if I can, and just take a step back for a little bit and just enjoy the ride I was on for the last 10 plus years. And then, soon I'm gonna be ready to get on that ride again for another 10 years. Phase 4 will be right around the corner, and you know, hopefully they can pull off something, close to what they pulled off in phases 1 through 3. So, I need my break now, but I'm ready to do it again for another 10 years when they're ready to let me back on.
I'll be waiting at the train station. At this point, I'm very excited for what the future holds and what they're able to do going forward. But good lord, if the MCU ended today, I'm very, very happy that I was along for the ride and was able to experience what they accomplished in these movies. And they have a bit of what like I said before, my childhood coming to life in one of my favorite forms of entertainment, and like escapism. I absolutely happy and appreciative for what we've gotten, because back in the 90s, a superhero movie was kind of unheard of. And here we are with this epic saga.
So, uh, at the end of it all, this movie definitely lives up to the hype. Just don't go in expecting what's going to happen, because they do throw a lot of curveballs at you. But go in knowing that the hype is real for this film. It's yeah, it'll punch you in the feels a couple of times. Just put it that way. But it's so worth it. This movie, I don't know if I would say it's my favorite in the MCU. I might have to see it again. It was super enjoyable again, even though it is very long, but it was really enjoyable, and it works. It doesn't work on its own. Like, you can't just watch this movie on its own without seeing the world around it. You know, you could go watch a movie like Ant-Man without having seen any other Marvel movie, and it's beautiful. You can go into it and you can enjoy it and you can laugh. But you can't go into even Infinity War. You can't go into Infinity War and especially Endgame without seeing the previous 20 movies. It doesn't work that way. It's just not going to feel right. You're not going to feel invested. You're not going to feel like you know these characters, because you won't. So it's not going to work the same way. And because of that, it can't really be my favorite MCU movie. Might be the one I can really maybe enjoy the most, but not on every level. But that does not take anything away from this movie and for what it's done. So I am not going to give it a score right now. I'm still kind of muddling it over in my head. I will have a proper score when my written review is done.
Well, I can appreciate where you're coming from with that. However, I don't see that as a bad thing, because what Infinity War and Endgame accomplished was completely earned because of the previous movies. Like, they earned the right to not have to sit there and treat their audiences like they're stupid.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest faults of any franchise. They obviously they stop caring about the quality of them, and then they eventually just go downhill, or they get to the point where they're sitting there like, oh well, these people that 10 years ago, these kids, they didn't see Iron Man, they're not going to understand any of this shit. Sorry, but moviegoers are smart, as way smarter than these producers, not Marvel producers, but Hollywood producers in general, make these fans out to be. The fact that Disney and Kevin Feige realized that, people that watch episodic television or read episodic comic books, they're in it for the long haul, and there's no reason to kind of let the reins go and let the franchise go off into turmoil. That being said, um, if you want to see Endgame, be excited that you're able to go back and watch those 20 some odd movies, because the ride is completely worth it. And
Mm-hmm.
the where the film series goes, the payoff is beyond anything that you've seen in any franchise ever. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, whatever you want to call it, as a competition. Excuse me. I don't even see them coming close to what was done in the MCU. That being said, I do think that this is probably my favorite movie because of how different it was from everything else I've seen in the MCU, and just it's the culmination. It has such a beautiful way to complete the series. Like I said earlier, even if this series doesn't go on, or the quality declines, or the stories aren't as strong or whatnot, but I completely think they're going to be. I'm satisfied. I'm very happy with what was given, and if you're new to this series and looking for a way on, just enjoy that ride because it is so worth it.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what I said in the beginning of this review. Satisfaction. To the point where I could use a couple cigarettes right now. That's how you feel when you come out of this movie. And it's, as I said, we're still trying to really.
Okay.
I'm coming right back on.
Well, the stream's already off. That fucking sucks.
No, it's coming. It'll come right back on. It'll recover. Should have recovered by now. Stupid OBS. I gotta figure out why it does that though.
I think we're back.
Should be.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
It's just OBS being OBS. But that's pretty much okay because we were just getting ready to sign off anyway. It's been a long day for us. I've not seen my wife all day, so let me go spend a little bit of time with her before I pass out, which is probably going to be in the next 10 minutes anyway. So, yeah. Hopefully, I will have my review done, and it'll be up in the next day or so, and you guys can enjoy reading that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in to us again tonight. Much appreciated. Don't forget, next Friday, next live commentary, and we will be back on Wednesday with 8 regular podcast episodes. You got anything else to add?
I can't wait to go to bed, so no. Take care.
All right, guys, thank you so much, and remember.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.